And we're starting things off in Group B. The decider match will be played out between TSM and ASU Sun Devils. So, yeah, let's chat about those rosters, starting with the TSM side of the things. You know, 5 former Wisp players. We've got some former OWL players in there as well, with Renko, of course, from San Francisco, Shocking King from the Titans. I'd say there's plenty of familiar faces on this roster. Also, quick caveat here, Icy and Rocket, they just won something and they're busy, so they're not going to be joining us for at least the first map. Will that be an issue for this team?
I don't think so, honestly. I mean, as good as Rocket and ICR, I think King and Rhino can super easily step into this squad and fill those shoes, and I don't think it's going to hurt them too much, honestly. Like, I think it's rare for teams at this level to have a bench where you're like, oh, these guys are just as good as the starters, and that's kind of how I see King. I mean, maybe hero specialty is a little different, but I think this is still a very strong team that I would expect to be the favorite today. I think ASU Sun Devils definitely going to be punching up in this matchup.
Yeah, I would definitely agree, right? I mean, the last time these teams played, it was a 3-0 for TSM. You know, yesterday, right, we had Timeless Ethereal. They got 3-0'd by Avidity, and then they come back and 3-0'd them to end the day. But I don't see that kind of turning with this match. I think even, you know, with TSM's roster, you know, maybe some of the things going on there, I still think they're a strong enough team. They should be able to get through the ASU Sun Devils.
Yeah, I mean, on this roster here, there's a lot of familiar names as well. If you're following contenders, you know, a bunch of former Shikigami players are in the mix here. Overall, it's not, they haven't had the easiest time in the groups. Let's put it like that.
No, I mean, they've struggled to get this far, but I think, you know, this would be, to be fair, just be a huge upset. I think with the experience level on TSM and TSM being a team, getting a lot of support, to even be in this match is already an accomplishment for ASU Sun Devils, as we see more and more collegiate programs in Overwatch really building respectable rosters that can compete, that can make it to the next level. But I do think this is going to be the toughest test yet, right? Facing a TSM squad who, I think their ambitions, it's fair to say, extend far beyond this match. I think for them, not winning this match would be a huge failure. And for ASU Sun Devils, this is sort of like, you know, you have maybe a little bit more freedom in terms of mentally, like you're not as, this isn't as much, there's not much pressure on you for ASU.
That's right. Also ASU, as a non-American, fact check here, Jake would probably know that. ASU is considered a party college. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, but it's a big state school. So while some people party, you know, it's a huge school. There's tons of people. So you got your gamers, you got your students. I mean, any massive school is going to have many.
I think Arizona is the party school. You know, just
the state.
You know, as you know, in the state, yeah.
State of the US.
You know, not deep into the expertise of party colleges. You know, but I'm pretty sure, with a degree of certainty, that Arizona.
It's up there.
Yeah, they're partying there.
It's hot. That's what I can say about Arizona. It is hot. Seriously,
it's hot. They party, and we're ready for all of that as well. Let's see if the games can match that kind of vibe. So, guys, please take it away.
We're going to see what kind of party we get here, right?
Can ASU bring the heat from their home state into the server and make it happen? TSM going to start with Busan, a map that I think puts a little bit of pressure on the hit scan duel, but it's a place that Chopper's going to be extremely comfortable. Curious to see what tanks Rhino plays. I mean, I think of him as a very flexible player, maybe a little bit more biased towards the main tanks, but I know he's got a decent ball. I mean, we could see that come out on Sanctuary. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, that would be quite interesting to see kind of the wrecking ball. We saw some of it for EMEA.
Yeah. And
also, just to give context for some of the people who maybe didn't see the series between these two teams last week, it was like a drubbing. Like, Lijiang Tower 2-0, 137 meters to 4 on Runasapi, and then a full hold on Shambali. So there's not much partying going on the ASU side of things, but you think you can build from there, right? And TSM, you talked about like getting out of groups, like would be like, I know obviously terrible for them if they're not able to do so.
Yeah,
I think this team needs to get like top 4. Like, it might be crazy to kind of say, but like,
with a name like TSM behind them, I agree.
Yeah, with like the brand of TSM behind them, with the caliber of players they have, like the aspirations for the team needs to be higher, I think, than just kind of get out of groups and be top 8 NA. It feels like they have to put together a pretty good performance. So they do end up playing the wrecking ball here at the start. I kind of like this.
Yeah, versus the Winston Sombra Tracer. Rhino's going to have to be careful not to get caught out. Good thing for him, though, is not too much damage. Even though the Sombra hack can come out, there's just not so much burst damage to follow up on the ball. the dives are going to come in very aggressively, I think, onto Renko, Lep, and Chopper. Here we see the Winston diving in. Great counter peel by Rhino. King peels off a Sombra on the flank, and this should just be an easy cleanup fight for TSM. Nice patience, frankly, from Rhino, right? We see so many wrecking balls, you know, go in. You think of the hero as like forcing dives, but in this matchup, Rhino knows he doesn't really have to do anything. He can kind of let the fight come to him, boop that Winston out of the bubble, and although it's not doing the most damage, it's really impacting the game quite significantly. When that dive comes in, the Winston just can't connect to the backliners.
Yeah, that's exactly what TSM was doing there, right? Like, Lep, Renko, and Chopper just kind of playing together, almost like baiting the dive in, right? Like, okay, like if you're going to play this Winston Sombra Tracer, you have to execute this so well with like the Brigana backline and just kind of baiting them into doing so. And once they went in, got aggressive, that's when the slam came in from Rhino, trying to get a hack here, not going to get it onto Chopper. And you see Aurora already hit with that bio grenade as well, going to get quite low on the tank.
Yeah, the trades are coming in this time, a more contested fight. It's just King and Rhino trying to clean up, but Rhino has so much HP, really no way to finish off this wrecking ball. Easy dual victory onto the Tracer. And that is a better dive, but I think Renko is wise there to be aggressive with the nade, right? We see a lot of Anas, you know, I'm just going to nade myself, just try to live. But in the end, you know, for TSM, you're kind of happy to trade down players. You're kind of happy if you hit a big nade on some of these divers, if there's no cleanse available, it's an easy cleanup.
Especially if you're ball lips, right? Like if you're trading it and you're ball and Tracer like the last two left, right? Like even in a 2v3, you feel pretty confident about still continuing to hold on to the point. It'll be ASU diving in yet again. This will be a nano on a Chopper just to kind of keep him up.
Great use of the nano. King double kill pulse bomb. And the rush comes out at the same moment as well. That's painful. That's really one of your strongest tools for this ASU Sun Devil squad, and it's not going to pay off here. TSM, perfect nano. I think that's the advantage of the wrecking ball. He doesn't really want the nano. He doesn't really need it. So he can come down defensively onto Chopper, and then that's your dive target. You thought you were going to hack and kill this Ashe, and suddenly she's dynamiting you for pretty much all your HP.
Yeah, and for ASU, it feels kind of tough, right? Because with this combo, you kind of have to commit to the dive. You can't exactly just kind of like play from point and just wait it out, but feels like you're not seeing loads of success going in trying to play aggressively, where now they'll have to get this into overtime. They do have an EMP to work with here potentially. As they do, they will just kind of sit on the point and take it. Okay, so they do end up getting the flip. So kind of like that decision going into the backline wasn't exactly working, but can't give up this much space, it feels like.
The EMP comes out, but it's shut down by Chopper, and maybe an overextension here. Rally peeling back, trying to save this backliner. Renko does drop, but the minefield defensively so hard for these divers, highly mobile heroes to get in.
I mean, yeah, you have the minefield right on top, right? You know, Panther can't really do much of anything there. Get out of the way. Aurora will fall. Bob on the point as well. TSM just able to kind of hold on to just about everything there for the end. And, you know, even maybe with, not their ideal starting lineup, they kind of cruise through round one.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you're losing Rocket, who maybe would be the stronger Tracer, but I mean, King is a great player of his own, and he is super comfortable in the Tracer. A lot of teams, I would be worried if they lost two of their star players, but TSM, they've got the depth in this roster where I genuinely don't think this is going to negatively affect them much at all. And I mean, that round really shows it, just constantly peeling back, falling back from the dives. If anything, for ASU, I think they're too one-dimensional with that playstyle. Like, as much as you want to dive, you're just full sending it right to the back line, right off the rip. For me, I think you need to be a little bit tricky, maybe apply some point pressure, bring that Ana and Ashe forward to touch the point, and then dive. But it was a bit too one note, and now TSM bringing out the Malga comp, a huge change up for them. ASU Sun Devil's going to match the rush, but with sort of a slower, more controlled variant. Now it's TSM's turn to get aggressive.
Yeah, completely different look here, I think, for ASU, right? They want to slow the pace down. Like, okay, like, we saw what happened in kind of like a dive versus, dive essential kind of mirror, right? With a, ball versus Winston kind of comp. Now maybe you can play a little bit slower, a little bit more controlled. See if you can win that way, but that is Aurora taking a huge amount of damage here with a big stomp from Rhino. The cardiac overdrive moving on in, right? So he'll stay pretty topped up. I don't know if you can kind of contest this point if you're ASU, especially now without your bat.
Yeah, losing the BAP is so painful here as now ASU Sun Devils trying to scrap something together, play around these Lucio heals, but even Lucio is dropping low. TSM player's not completely healthy, but they're going to stay aggressive. King goes down. Chopper's still in the mix. They're going to try and end this one quick before the BAP gets back, and with so many low players, it's time for Chopper cleaning up on the Genji, and the kills do come through for TSM as they secure that point and the team fight victory. That was a little bit too close for comfort, I think, losing the Venture a little bit earlier. And now ASU Sun Devil is going to make a heavy swap, switching to a very poke-oriented comp with this Echo Ashe. In theory, these heroes are good, but yeah, I have a hard time imagining them coming out through the chokes, Matt.
Yeah, I think they're gonna get stopped right here. I think the Echo and the Ash, we've actually seen teams do really nice things with them, throughout NA. Been a really successful, damage dealer combo as they get right on top of Panther in the spawn. But I don't know how you kind of like poke your way out, right? There's not really an opportunity to do so. And then even when you get near the choke, it's going to be a big slam that comes in from Rhino, followed up by Chopper and King on those really mobile, aggressive damage dealers. So like, I don't know how you kind of like poke through this choke. I think this would work like on a potentially different map, right? Like not a game mode like Control where these chokes are so difficult to get through. But here it might be quite difficult.
Yeah, TSM gonna set up at the choke point. Rhino, no one really to stop him. Arissa's very far away and not gonna be able to stop this aggression at all. Dive comes in, Shout as well, followed up by the Kitsune Rush. Now Chopper looking for the opportunity to pop this blade. Burrow in onto the Baptiste. He's instantly bursted. No follow-up. Doesn't even want to pull the blade. Looks like he can just clean it up with the shurikens as he dashes around. Easy kills. The flip comes in, which is nice, but it's really only going to slow down the inevitable. Probably bought ASU Sun Devils one last chance, but with the ultimates, I mean, in the end, TSM, that was only their Kitsune Rush, and they still win the team fight. Angelic, close to the beat. That'll be nice. But there's such overwhelming ult pressure from TSM.
Yeah, this is going to be brutal, I imagine, for TSM, right? You have a combo with a cage fight plus a blade, right? We've seen teams use that in the past, and it looks like ASU just trying to figure out which way they want to go here. They got to make a decision. It'll be one player who gets on, touches the point, Anihu over to the Tracer here. So they're trying to put pressure on this Lucio, not going to end up getting the beat off. Don't even think you need the cage fight or the blade at the moment. Looks like TSM kind of pulling away.
Yeah, they're just holding the ults for next round. I think no real need, secure them for insurance if something happens later. ASU do get the flip in the fight, and it's a little bit sloppier than I'd like out of TSM. Chopper is low. Looks like he is going to get healed up, but ASU bought themselves a respectable fight here. TSM going to be happy, I think, that they held on to a few of these ults. Cage fight comes down on the Orisa. She's isolated away from her teammates. The fort gets her out. The blade searching for kills. Chopper finds the connection one. Now the Tracer in his sight can't quite clean her up as she's blinking around, but the kills are coming in elsewhere. Everyone contributed. Oh, what a Kobe! Holy crap! Out of Anu, that was a monster pull. But it's too little, too late here on Busan as TSM run away with it here on map one.
I mean, they end up losing, but that pole spot was probably the most exciting part of that first map. I mean, that was crazy.
I think you just couldn't believe it.
You saw it in the air for, it felt like 10 seconds. It was just like all the way up at the top. But man, that is dominating from TSM. Other than that awesome moment at the end from ASU.
Yeah, I like the patience from TSM with their ultimates, right? Saving them. I do think there maybe were some opportunities for them to just, rip some ults and finish the fight a little earlier. A couple flips did come in from ASU, but in the end, TSM kept it in control. When they lost one player, they, maybe reined in the aggression a little bit, slowed the game down, showing their expert experience on this squad where when they're not just running you over and dominating you and you start to get purchase in the rounds, they know how to group together. They know how to play out those clutch fight scenarios.
Yeah, and you got to wonder like where ASU decides to go after this. The last series we ended up seeing them play Runasapi and then Shambali. Both of those don't end up kind of working out their way. We take a look at some of the highlights here. From map number one, really like the ball play. It was like, a little bit more kind of like counter dive, I guess you would say, right? Taking advantage when the Winston would leap in, go in with the Tracer and the Sombra, a big slam would come down. We saw like a defensive use of the Dynamite. I thought the ball was really effective in round one.
Yeah, just a hero is so hard to individually target. Rhino, definitely an expert user. That's where the double kill pulse, the boot from the ball to get the cleanup. I mean, that's the chaos that you expect out of a Wrecking Ball. Chopper looking great on the Genji, showing some flexibility where, this is, I think, what you really want from your hit scan in the modern day of Overwatch is the ability to come out on some unconventional, faster-paced heroes. In the past, it was heroes like Tracer and Sombra the hit scan players often brought out, but I think Genji venture with this Maga is just an incredibly explosive comp, very hard to play against, right? I mean, you see that ASU here just constantly on the back foot. Chopper is running through them and looks super comfortable on the Genji. A hero that a lot of players just won't want to bring out in a difficult match.
Hit scan players have had a while now to pick up some of these other heroes.
Yeah. The time has come.
Yeah, I think, the time, that is just, that is insane. I would love to see this. Where does he even look?
I mean, he's going for this. Like, it's just, oh no, like two. That is so cool. That is nuts.
hey, you know what? Even in a loss, that's still pretty cool though. But I think hit-scan players need to be able to like play. I mean, the same type of thing we talked about in the past, with like off-tank and main tank players. Now that line's blurred. Like I feel like across the board, you know, with how many teams we've seen kind of get hurt by not having that flexibility, you kind of need the players to be able to do a little bit more. At least have one or two of the flex, damage dealers, kind of in your wheelhouse. These are the stats for map 1, and I don't think these this
KD
right. Like KD's look not great.
That is not good. That's not what you want.
We can see improvement from here though.
Yes, this is a good place to start if you want to have an improvement trend. So, if it's worse next map, it'll be a quick one. That's all I can say.
I think for ASU, I think pick a map that you can slow the pace down, right? I think like playing the dive, I think TSM was just really good at kind of countering that. I think they had the right idea. I think TSM just kind of comes in and makes a lot of nice kind of like defensive dive plays. I think probably take a map that you can slow it down, like potentially like a circuit, like see how that kind of goes, like maybe play something along those lines.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a circuit. In the end, I think for ASU, I don't think there's going to be like some Achilles heel for TSM. It's not, there's not one comp that they can't play. So rather than trying to put them on the back foot, I think just go to your comfort zone. Like, what are you the most confident in? What do you feel like you guys have the most experience on? Where can you just like, you all know what you want to do, what you all have the same vision of the game. And I mean, Busan is just honestly is a pretty tough map type with 3 very different control points, 3 very different styles, where TSM looks super comfortable, brought out 2 180 degree opposite styles, round to round. It's hard to adapt to something like that. Some map types like on Flashpoint, let's say maps like Circuit, it's like what you're going to get. It's a little bit less chaotic, a little bit less unpredictable, and I think that at least could equalize things a bit for ASU, kind of give them a fighting chance in this series.
They should just go Junkertown. Why not?
That would go crazy. It's a Shambali. I like the escort pick though. Like it's like, okay, you want to play Rush, but maybe that you don't want to play Dorado, you don't want to play Circuit. I think I really like the map 2 escort pick. I feel like it's almost a must pick for me in this format.
Yeah, so we saw them play this map exactly in the previous series, but it was their map 3. It was a 1-0 in favor of TSM. So maybe they kind of like saw something in that. Maybe there were like a few fights that they kind of felt like, hey, if we play it a little bit differently, like this can go our way. So to bring it in here, I know for that map number 2, give themselves a chance. I agree with you. I think like you pick like an escort or a hybrid, like if you get that first choice, I think just a lot more value in those, unless you feel like you can like you're amazing at push, right? Thing that always scares me about push is like the first fight just like matters so much that if you lose that, you're in a rough spot.
It's also a tricky one where on push, I think there's a lot of viability of different styles, different strategies, and it's kind of hard to pin down, what your opponents are going to bring out. So if you're a one-note team, if you're like, we're always going to play Rush, and the other team is like, they know that, they're going to come out with some counter comp, then you're going to have to adapt, you're going to be falling behind, puts a lot of pressure on you in the series. And push, it can also be, I feel like it can be more mentally draining in a long series, right? Especially if you get like a blown out in map 2, and it's like, let's say you go down by 100 meters in the first 2 minutes, and then the rest of the map is like the other team just defending and just kind of like keeping you at bay. It's soul crushing, honestly.
I mean, there is that Game of Gladiators game in EMEA where they were up by like 100 meters and they end up blowing it. I mean,
that's a good point.
Stuff like that and push is just, I mean, that is just brutal. If you want to send yourself down to, a good old mental boomage, that's a good way to go about it, where you kind of end up on the wrong side of a 100-meter push here. Season 12, it's live. Jake, what do you think on it? I know you've been playing a ton. You're gonna play the WoW expansion, but you put it down. And you're like, 12 is out. Got a game.
Yeah, I was desperate to play WoW, but I decided to play Overwatch. No, I mean, it's been fun. I'm hoping I can hit Champ this season. I think they made it maybe a little bit easier, a little bit more possible. So maybe it's my time to hit Champ. That's the dream. That's the goal this season.
Maybe I'll get there as well.
Yeah, maybe this is your time to hit Champ, Matt. This is the future.
It's all our time. Just those 2 a.m. Reaper queues.
You're the one queuing Reaper in all my games, man.
No, I am not. I am not queuing Reaper in your games. I am not. That is most certainly not happening. But yeah, they did do kind of like that. the rank reset, right? They do that, I think, like twice a year now. So we kind of get that in. Juno's pretty cool. But we got to get the players in the lobby so we can get map number 2 underway. It's taking a little bit, so we're going to go to a quick break, and we'll have the map number 2 right after this.
Yeah, I think Orisa, since she's slowed by her own Fortify, some of that super aggressive playstyle where the Orisa just forts and like speed boosts into your Ana and she just gets owned, that I think has kind of gone by the wayside. But Orisa in a poke composition where her role is more like, I'm going to touch the card and you got to deal with me, she's still incredibly tanky and now does more damage. That energy javelin is a big threat. So if she can kind of post up on the cart and just force the objective and let her teammates poke away and find kills, I do think there's a possibility for this hero to work. The big issue for ASU Sun Devils, if they run a style like this or a pokey style, is going to be King and Lep. On the Lucio and the Tracer, if there's an Ash Dynamite or if Rhino finds a big Ravenous Vortex, the follow-up could be just super overwhelming. From the Tracer Lucio kind of going over the back line. Looks like we're going to see maybe a more conventional Rush Mirror. ASU Sun Devils going with a very classic comp with the hit scan and the Mei. TSM maybe a more modern variant using the Tracer.
Well, I was going to say, when we were just talking about the Orisa, it's like, okay, well, if she kind of like, the role is to take position on the cart and stand there and force action, like it feels like Ramatra maybe even has like more staying power in terms of like shield Nemesis form, being able to block, kind of like rotate those cooldowns, where it feels like that's kind of the role that he could kind of like fit into. Is looks like ASU trying to take some of the high ground here. This is going to be dangerous as well, pushing into this area with Chopper being able to land a big dynamite.
Yeah, it's hard to break. Chopper's getting pushed back, though. Both teams just trading Nemesis forms. No one can really commit. TSM in the end doing a great job holding down this choke. Immortality field forced a little bit better by Renko, and that's all the difference you need. The Mei, while just wasn't able to really isolate anybody in that team fight, and King's harassment on these off angles is just proving so annoying. Not only the damage he's dealing, but the distraction effect, right? Like your Lucio, your BAP are busy dealing with the Tracer. These are not pressuring the front line, and Rhino doing a great job holding that corner and just kind of biding his time and just having the better skill uses in the end. This time ASU's pushing in super aggressive, deep dynamite to the backline, but they're so exposed. Rhino, King attacking this flank. Drone is keeping them up for now, but TSM seems to have reset this decently. ASU window online here could try to break this open, but King is just constantly pestering them. They're not able to regroup and press forward because of this Tracer on the flank. He's looking for more. BAP does not want to look at this Tracer. Luckily, gonna get forced away. And oh, a misplaced window from Renko, so they can't use it. And that might actually be an opening as Chopper, is he caught alone on the flank? I think he's trying to slip out, see if he can get away, or rather, it's King on the Tracer. He's not too worried. But, I mean, the card is just now pushing Mad. I mean, TSM, it essentially cost them nothing. We have 2 minutes left.
Yeah, they gave up 20 meters. This is devastating here for TSM. They're just trying to get that high ground. I mean, it's such a commitment, especially when ASU kind of is forced to use that drone quite early, right? There's no way you can kind of end up winning that when Renko has that drone able to use, right? Such an important cooldown, one of the most important ones in the game, the immortality field, right? So now the payload will move a little bit further back here with TSM. I mean, you have a lot to work with here. You're probably looking at any who's Blizzard as like a difference maker, right? Like maybe you can kind of like capture the Ramatra inside the Blizzard, but you do have Lep with that sound barrier on the other side of things. So it's not like they won't have anything to keep that Ramatra up.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to go for a tricky flank, bringing the supports in the Ash over the off angle. King is ready to disrupt it, though, and they're all looking at King. No one's looking at Chopper, who does trade the Ash before he goes down. Now, both Ramatras brawling on cart, but the support position for TSM is just so dominant right here. Very early, very aggressive beat. Blizzard, everything being poured into Renko, but Lep still has the beat. The drone comes down first, Lep beats second, and you have no hope of getting Rhino. He still has that annihilation, but seems to not quite need it yet in the team fight. Renko dies to Aurora, though, so maybe an opening here without a Baptiste. TSM might like to back off and just fight another day here, but we're coming into final fight territory. That was really the big bank expended from ASU Sun Devils, and they weren't able to get a decisive fight. They were able to start pressuring the cart, but no cleanup, and TSM, it's 4 ults to 1.5 in this team fight, and I think TSM, if they run the clock a little bit down, this could easily be an ultimate team-wide final fight on Car.
Yeah, it'll be Bob. Actually, Bob ends up on the other side of the Mei wall. They try and, use the Mei wall to split the Bob off, but he actually ends up on the ASU side of things. It'll be a, a Bob v. Bob showdown there. On the card as we're going to go into overtime, but TSM has a lot of great ultimates to use to. That's going to be the Lamp Pulse Bomb on Angelic. So you still have Rhino here with this Annihilation to use.
Yeah, he's holding onto it now, doesn't want to overextend into this Ashe and Batiste playing the Amp Matrix. King, though, is going to be the one to deal with it. Now Chopper as well, and here we go. Rhino pulls the trigger with the Annihilation, swarms in, connects with that Tracer Ashe flank onto the back line, and with the supports pushed away, it's an easy cleanup on the payload. TSM are just running through the ASU Sun Devils. It's not just a full hold. I mean, this is a destructive full hold. ASU did not even get around the final corner, did not even really pressure that first capture point, and deja vu for ASU Sun Devils. Another full hold by TSM, a repeat of the last time these teams played. This is going to be mentally a really tough spot to be in for ASU. This is going to be a real test of their fortitude. Can they even come out and make a statement, make a competition in a map where, I mean, I'd say TSM maybe 90-10 to win at this point in the round.
What's your thoughts on the May? I feel like with May, we've seen a decent amount of play yesterday specifically, but like I feel like it hasn't really paid off as much as like when we've seen teams kind of run it with having like an Echo in the mix, right? Instead, play like Echo Ashe. It feels like that's been really strong. Where the May, I think you're trying to like split teams off. I think probably the Echo is a little bit harder to kind of keep alive if you're going to play the BAP, right? And maybe you feel like you need the BAP because you have the Ramatra, but feels like a little bit more value you're getting out of the Echo in some of these games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the May as a hero. Like, conceptually, I think she does work well with the comp, but I think the bigger trouble is that with Ashe and May, you don't have anybody on the flank, right? You really are going to try to fully overload the front line, and a tank like Ramatra, support like Batiste are just super happy to, take that 5-man aggression and just tolerate it well and stay alive. And on the flip side, King is constantly harassing your backline. Chopper comes in on the flank on the Ashe, and they're just picking off supports before the fight even really gets going, and that's just the worst case scenario when you're running this May comp, when you don't even really get to fight the front line. They're gonna go for a spawn hold here, try to make something happen. Yeah, I think it's a risk. What a great nade by Lep on the top of the wall. Hits the Lucio, almost gets a kill here, but both teams poking, prodding. ASU, though, sitting in the corner, though, I don't like this play. I think they need to make something happen, and BAP already low, has to drone. I mean, look at Lep is like up in their face on Lucio, no respect. The Lucio and the Tracer, I mean, this is that flank pressure coming in, right? Batiste, Ashe have to turn. This is creating so much opportunity for the front line of TSM. The card has not moved yet. Sun Devils maybe have stabilized, but
well, they have to be careful here. The cart's going to start to like move away, so they have to kind of come around this corner somehow and actually challenge this. Aurora gets in position, takes out Lep. So you mentioned Lep playing really aggressive, actually finds that kill. J-Man will pick up another, so ASU potentially getting a hold here.
Yeah, it's really well played. There was a moment there they dropped super low. The flank pressure was coming in. I thought it'd be overwhelming, but Z-Panther and Angelic did a great job staying alive, keeping the pressure off. Chopper really wasn't able to find too much damage in that team fight. Maybe missing some dynamite connections there, not able to get the damage past the Ramatra. So TSM with some ultimates, we'll see if they take a different approach. I like the idea of flanking, but whoa, Lep again, super aggro, over aggressive, gets punished quickly. And this corner hold is proving effective. Pulse Bombs just doesn't find too much here, and J-Man wins the duel. So hold on, this spawn hold looking super effective. The Tracer not really working at all in this confined space.
Yeah, I think TSM, I mean, maybe you're not worried at the moment, right? But you lose another fight, you invest some ultimates in there, I think you're going to be a little bit worried, as I know this really close corner hold, playing this right-hand side has worked out here for ASU. They have the Bob to contest as well if need be. This will be an Amp Matrix here from TSM. It's going to be Chopper taking out anywho, but I'm surprised that ASU doesn't maybe kind of respond. I mean, they respond with their own Amp Matrix here, but you kind of need to keep that hold going, it feels like, or at least make TSM expend more ultimates to kind of get that payload moving. It feels like now that they've got it moving, and you're going to have 4 ultimates for this next fight, you feel like you're in a rough spot.
Maybe, I mean, 2.5 minutes there. I think that's above expectations in the end for ASU. Like, you would have loved to get more ults out. That would have put you in a better position. But if you can make this fight like last a long time with the May, you can just stagger things out, stall the card. We could be seeing this turn into a final fight if you can delay it enough. TSM, of course, don't want to let that happen. But the aggressive Bob on the flank combined with the push from Aurora, they flip the switch. It looks decent. But Rhino, TSM trying to clutch this one out. Trades look better for the offense here. TSM, I mean, after a fantastic first hold from ASU, they're getting cleaned up on the cart, and they're full committing with the beat as well. Lep ready to respond. Both teams have an annihilation. I think ASU needs to reset, needs to slow this down. There's just too many players on the cart, and it's going to be a final contest, and this is where that defense is really going to bite. They just have no room to work with. They have to stop the cart right here.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. I think Aurora actually gets hit with a pulse bomb and backs up to get into the immortality field, but then isn't able to contest. They had a blizzard there as well. They had blizzard annihilation. I mean, there's a chance. Hey, that close hold was really good. It was just that next fight, getting another fight win. So ASU puts up a pretty strong test here against TSM, but TSM still comes out on top. That's a rough way to lose that one, though.
That is super painful. I mean, that's where TSM's full hold comes into such value, right? Where you can imagine if ASU had just gotten the cart around the bend, even if they don't cap first, if they just really get it to like that last couple meters, that would have been a very different situation where you would have had the flexibility to hold the corner under Matcha. You wouldn't have had to push in, and you maybe would have found a better mail, a better wall. But it doesn't come to
from up top,
exactly. So many more options. And so you got to be kicking yourself. I feel like ASU, there's a clear reason they picked that map. The defense looked really solid. They were well practiced, but then the offense was just a little too lackluster.
Yeah, I mean, hey, with the way they played, they probably beat a lot of other teams, just not TSM, as TSM played pretty well towards the end. Take a look at some of the highlights here from Shambali. I think ASU's offense, just they were so committed, to moving down this left-hand side, going up that high ground, and it just took ages to develop.
Yeah, just constantly got harassed. And then, I mean, I think TSM played really smart against that heavy push from the Mei, rather than really trying to stuff the choke where Mei is going to be super effective and going to split you up with the wall. They kind of let the push come in, let it blow off a bit of steam. And then that's when the flanks, the poke, the pressure, Rhino's just kind of holding it down, waiting out these big cooldowns. And then when the Mei runs out of that ice block, the wall expires, the Tracer flank is continuing to pressure you. That's when things kind of go from bad to worse for that ASU offense. I mean, the defense was great. I wonder if TSM maybe would have preferred a greedier choice than something like a Tracer, like maybe an Echo could have flown up in the air and just kind of, or Farah even, just free firing into that little corner that ASU were holed up in. But against the Tracer, they really managed it well while continuing to hold the front line.
Yeah, I mean, really, the ASU defense, just playing from this corner, with the amount of pressure that TSM was putting on, it's tremendous. They held it for as long as they did. Just kind of, time and time again, I really feel like I know Angelic and Panther and the supports, right? They just did a tremendous job, kind of playing, whether it's they were being, the Tracers on one side, the other teams, the other players on the team just coming from the other side, being able to kind of stay alive throughout all of that. Take a look at some of these stats here. From map number 2. See, we're improving. ASU looking much better here, map number 2 in terms of stats.
They tripled their KD. If they do it again, they'll win a map. But now
they tripled their tough. KD from 0.6. There's a good chance they would win the next map.
Yes. But, and I think honestly they did have some good looks there, some good comfortable spots. There's I can understand why they picked Shambali. However, now I'm a little worried because always it's your first map pick. That's your strongest punch, right? That's where you have full power. You can pick whatever you want. You go to your very best map. That's your biggest opportunity to turn the series around, and they aren't able to get it done. And so now it's okay, what's up next? What's the second strongest punch? But I can't help but feel that maybe TSM have kind of gotten over the hump here. And on a lot of maps besides Shambali, it's going to be hard to make that committed Mei rush style work.
So the last time they picked Runasapi, but they end up losing that one by 133 meters. So maybe somewhere else, right? Do you go to a flash point here? Do you potentially pick a hybrid, a New Junk City potentially, right? Try and play something along those lines. I think going to Runasapi again would be a little bit odd, but they end up picking Shambali in that series as well. Ends up in the same kind of fashion as this one, but still pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they've shown they really like this 5-man style with the Mei and their Matra rush. If you want to continue that, maybe you take us to King's Row. Okay, it is just a Runasapi again. Okay. So running it back with confidence. In a way, I like this. It's if these were your best maps before. If these were your best maps before, maybe they're still your best maps. And just keep running it on your comfort zone. I'm a little worried though, because honestly, I think King has been running a little rampant in this series. maybe shouldn't have played Tracer on the offense with everyone just bunkering in the corner. You mean, heck, you could have played like Junkrat there and just spam into that corner and probably just do the most on DPS. But this is a map where the Tracer duel is going to be so impactful. If you're just winning the flank fights on King, even if it's not, you're not necessarily killing the other Tracer, if you're just pushing her out or there's no enemy Tracer to stop you and you're getting on the back line, I mean, this is a map you have to contest that Tracer on the flank. If you let her run amok, it's going to be a tough spot. I don't know about the full, like the Mei on this map, I have a hard time seeing it work. But maybe they've got something up their sleeves. It's a new map, you know, there's still opportunity, I think, to innovate and find a new way to play.
There's probably also some value in that you've already played TSM on these maps, so you have a good idea of what they're going to do, and maybe, you know, you kind of learn something from that first series and you're able to kind of, bring it into this one, keep it a bit closer. But yeah, that Tracer battle here on Runasapi is definitely going to be one to look at. I don't really feel like this is a great opportunity for Mei. I feel like you're going to have to see something different. Like the streets are a little bit too wide, and there's like lots of like verticality and like different like windows and buses. You can kind of like circumvent some of the walls and whatnot. It wouldn't be as crazy to kind of ice wall somebody off. Feels like there's a lot of opportunity to counter that.
Yeah, and TSM have shown us so many styles. I'm just kind of excited to see what they bring out here, what they feel like is the strongest choice on Runasapi. I think a lot of teams have been playing like a Winston on a Brig on this map. We've seen Diva dive styles. I would love to see the ball, although I don't think it's very good on this map. I think this is definitely a Winston map.
It's terrible, but
Winston is just so comfortable here. The ranges on the map are kind of like in that sweet spot of like one Winston jump, and there's a lot of structure for Winston to play around and move up across the map. It looks like we got a little our HUD is wrong. It is in fact TSM on the left, Chopper on Bastion. Will he actually play Bastion? Very unlikely.
Yeah, we see teams like send the Lucio with like a Tracer on like an off angle, right? Like on almost like another kind of flanker. So we got these sides swapped. Everybody's all good to go. I actually think probably what happened was ASU maybe wanted blue side and TSM was over there.
Is there a side difference on these maps? I'm not a professional player anymore. There's a few maps like control maps and stuff where there actually was some like very small difference between the sides. But I don't.
So I believe they're uniform in terms of like distance to the point, but potentially some kind of different like angles.
There's like some one little box on one part of the map.
There's like probably better. Like one team has like right hand advantage, like coming around a thing.
Yeah. Both Winstons just vying for control. It's kind of it's a very weak bubble from Aurora. No Winston bubble, could be a go sign as Rhino jumps right into the back line, pressures out, not able to find any kills. Probably gonna need to fall back from this position as Z Panther drops super low from the dive, able to be carried by his Brig and kind of reset. And Rhino's just trying to keep that aggression on. Both teams dealing with each other's Winstons as it's a very scrappy initial fight. That nade onto Brig, another opportunity maybe to dive. Dynamite follow up. Everyone's low on ASU Sun Devils, but Brig is doing a great job keeping them healed up.
Yeah, as Chopper will take out the enemy Tracer, so kick things off with a big kill. Puts another shot down there on J-Man in the street as Aurora trying to make it out, but not able to do so. These dynamites, man, at the start from Chopper have been sick.
Yeah, he's been a huge difference maker in this fight. And King, I mean, despite not having the Brig, I think putting himself in maybe a tougher spot in the matchup is just acquitting himself super well. Like able to get in there with Rhino, not lose his life. And sometimes it is just that Ashe headshot on the Tracer. You can't fully play around those, right? It's just up to the Ashe to deliver those clutch kills in the moment that usually just blow the game wide open. Rhino getting a lot more damage down. Probably can just get a primal with one jump here. So TSM has a real chance to snowball this advantage and capture the first checkpoint. Sun Devils would love to stop the bleeding here. I think this is really their best chance to hold on to the advantage here on Runasapi. The Nano under Aurora is going to get into the primal though. Is he going to catch anything?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I was like, what are you kind of looking for here? This is going to be sound barrier in response. Rhino actually kind of gets the Nano on the opposite side, and Rhino's going to be able to hold on to this primal now to kind of use in as they go in deeper into the spawn.
Yeah, this should be a big cleanup. Rhino's caught them all. He's behind them. He's not letting anybody escape alive. And Leb charged that beat so incredibly quickly. I think when he dropped the beat, Angelic was only at 75, 80 on the rally. And I mean, that's the power of this Lucio change, right? You might be a little easier to kill, but through that constant spam damage, you're charging beat faster than a lot of support ultimates. I mean, it's an expensive ult, but Lucio just puts down big stats if you have good aim and you're landing those shots consistently. I think this is a big opportunity for ASU Sun Devils, though. They've got to get in, find a solid dive, as Lep caught alone, but slips away. Pulse Bomb on a Chopper might be enough, though. ASU Sun Devils would love to win this fight without investing any more ultimates. TSM very aware of it, though. They're going to maybe be able to escape, and I think ASU Sun Devils maybe a little too cautious, a little too defensive. They don't get any cleanup kills, and TSM is going to be back at full strength to fight this mid, close to some more ultimates of their own. Hard to sometimes use this rally aggressively.
Yeah, especially because, you know, the speed boost, right? Like, what are you going to use it for? It's going to be a little bit more defensive. It's going to be bobs from both teams. This is the rally that comes in here from Angelic, just kind of protecting as Rhino goes into the backline. Rhino also hit with a bio, so not going to be able to get any type of healing. So he will fall, and this is pretty good now for ASU. They should be able to gain some progress.
Yeah, definitely going to start progressing the bot, but the power of the Lucio, right? Lep's gonna be able to fall back, taxi Rhino, get him back a little bit quicker, and get a couple, maybe 2 fights before the checkpoint goes. We'll see if TSM want to do that aggressive move, or maybe just play to farm that nano for the Rhino win, since he's so far from Primal, maybe a little bit too ambitious to go in without the nano. And I mean, ASU Sun Devils, they're behind, right? They have to make something happen. TSM shouldn't really feel any pressure at this moment. They should be happy to sit on defense as long as the enemies would like to let that happen. And that's letting Lep poke away, charging the sound barrier, those little Cheerios. You know, this is a nice defensive position. ASU Sun Devils are the ones who have to break it open.
Well, both teams kind of like playing for their nano, right? So they end up kind of like building this nano on both sides. But they find Chopper yet again, so doing a nice job here is ASU kind of, you know, finding the Ash on the opposite side of things. As Rhino gets quite low. They have to use the nano onto Aurora, though, to be able to get that. You're going to have a nano here for Renko. He's going to drop it on a Rhino as Rhino works in with King.
Oh, big dive out of King. Gets slept, but Rhino's there to drop the bubble, keep Tracer alive. And meanwhile, Aurora's primaling. Yes, it looks like he's going to clean up the supports, but it's not really winning you the team fight. You already lost your own backline. It's more or less just going to be a full reset here of the position. And I think TSM are happy with that, right? Being in the lead, happy to run down the clock. Still going to brawl a little bit here on the car, feeling confident, and Aurora elects to back off. So TSM kind of getting their way on the map, and with a big ultimate advantage here, opportunity to beat aggressively. I mean, ASU Sun Devils have absolutely nothing in the tank. I think they're going to be really worried.
It feels like Aurora needed to hold that position a little bit longer, right? I know, allowing the team to kind of get back more towards the mid-map. Now you're allowing the TSM, both supports here with Chopper, to go on a little bit of a flank. You've already lost your Ash. You've lost, you know, I mean, your Ana as well. I mean, this is pretty bad now for ASU. This is going to allow TSM to gain even more progress, and they're going to hold on to the sound barrier on through this. ASU not really close to any type of support ultimate, so TSM in a spot where they're going to go above 100 meters. I mean, they're going to get this spot pretty far.
Yeah, and with the late death on the Winston and the Tracer, there's no one who can even kind of stall the cart before the fight. Lep holds onto the sound barrier, even delayed the kill on the Winston, so just masterfully played by TSM as they expand their advantage here on the map. And this is not an easy fight by any means. Anhu really needs to find this pulse pump connection, and there's not too many easy targets. It could be the Ash or the Ana, but I mean, Lucio's so evasive, could be really tough. And once again, I mean, ASU, they have to initiate this fight. TSM is kind of happy to run the clock here, farm ultimates, play slow. With the Lucio, the comp kind of favors that style. Brig is the one who wants to get in and force a brawl. Lucio, not conventionally thought of as a poke hero, but does contribute a lot in this type of a slow trade.
Yeah, it's just still more progress here for TSM. Chopper just kind of looking, maybe he actually kind of thought that Anywho was there, or maybe the supports, but this is a really rough spot for ASU. I mean, they're just going to
Chopper on the back line. Beat as well aggressively, and they have to do a Chopper, but there's so much pressure from the front line. They can't possibly turn. They can't catch Chopper, who escapes with his life. Sleep onto the Winston's gonna get bursted, even if he wanted to primal, didn't have the opportunity there. And ASU Sun Devils, they just get run over. TSM pushing into the spawn here. Yes, you have all your ultimates for the Sun Devils, but you're so far behind, and you're being choked into the spawn. The nano, the heal's not quite in time. Oh, the backline is evaporating. Pulse bomb from King. This is too much. TSM want to close out the series here and now. They want to finish it with time on the clock here, gunning for that full cap on push. Maybe the primal will be enough for ASU Sun Devils to stop it, but the cart just keeps rolling. Every inch is just painful for ASU Sun Devils, as they will clean up with spawn advantage, but it feels so hopeless in this spot, Matt.
They got just kind of like pinched into their spawn, right? Chopper on that opposite side, just putting down so much damage. You know, the players coming through the initial choke for TSM. ASU, I mean, this is an enormous mountain to climb. I mean, 2 minutes 35 seconds, but they got to basically be perfect from here on out. And TSM, I mean, with how good Rhino has been with this Primal getting to the back line, feels like even with that rally, even if you use it to just get the rally out early, is Panther taking some damage. That's going to be the rally. You're not even going to have to use the Primal to get it out.
It's such a defensive rally and a self-nade, so really there's not much opportunity to get aggressive. Chopper's under a lot of pressure from the bomb. Burning down, no, Chopper! That's a tragic death, gets separated from his supports by the bomb, so ASU Sun Devils finding their way back in the fight. Rhino, though, super happy to trade away from the cart. Getting even one kill here would be great for TSM, but maybe too ambitious without the team to really support him. He's getting booped and focused down. Brig, though, caught alone by the last punch of the Primal, and Rhino escapes. Oh no.
That is crazy that he's able to make it out. You don't really have any supports like now there in his line of sight, but before, didn't really have much of anything. And now you can kind of go again, right? You know that the Brig is dead on the other side. That's a nice nade, though, there from Panther that leads to taking out Rhino.
But, you know, one falls and another just trade comes in. TSM are keeping the pressure on so aggressively. And ASU Sun Devils going to make their own swap to the Lucio, taking the mirror. But is it going to change anything? This nano dive, I think, has to be explosive. We need to see a clean team fight victory from ASU Sun Devils. Nade from Renko misses. Opportunity for the nano push. And J-Man finds a kill to the Lucio. Okay, this is exactly what you needed for ASU Sun Devils. Maybe do they want to look to be greedy and win this fight without ulting? It's certainly going to be a thought in their mind with this, you know, long push to commence. But TSM, they just keep fighting down one. I mean, that's a huge difference between these teams. TSM is not afraid to continue the brawl. Even down a player, they still fight well. And beautiful peel by Lep maybe is going to be enough to keep them alive. It's going to be close. Beat as well comes in, but ASU Sun Devils, their formation completely split. TSM, if they're able to just get a regroup here, I think they're going to be very happy to have a zero ult fight for potentially the end of the map and the end of the series.
Yeah, it feels like TSM would be much more comfortable in that type of position, right? No ultimates on the board, but it's going to be Panther who finds King. Is King just kind of playing on the bot there? Maybe just kind of gets caught out a little bit as now an opportunity for ASU to get the bot moving deeper into TSM territory. But like you mentioned, TSM, they just don't back down after they lose a player. The fights are still winnable.
Sleep on Tracer.
You're going to be able to follow this up with Lep, as Auroric took a lot of damage there as well. Was here the bio.
Oh, the chaos is coming to the best of ASU Sun Devils right now. TSM feeling confident. Rhino holding the front line, getting a ton of heals, and it's overtime. You've got to keep this card contested, but King pressuring you from the off angle. Doesn't want to get caught off here. Likely to see a slow fight. Big nade on the Winston should take control of this corner. Rhino has blocked the heals, isolated that Winston. The pulse bomb cleans him up. Now it's Lucio's turn to get in, but it's so desperate. Too little, too late. Rhino wakes up from the sleep, cleans them up with the primal, and it's TSM taking the series 3-0 in a very convincing fashion. Very well played from all the individuals on TSM. A lot of, you know, heroic plays there. As good as ASU Sun Devils were grouped up and, you know, defending themselves, I felt like they were never able to get on the aggressive and really get on the front foot in the series.
Yeah, I mean, not a incredibly surprising result. I think ASU had moments there throughout the series. I think probably some things to work on to kind of like reach the levels that potentially TSM is at, but TSM kind of gave us exactly what we wanted. We wanted to see them come in here, win in dominant fashion, which they did.
Yeah, I do have to say though, I respect the opposition. They brought us again to Shambali Monastery. You know, like they brought us to the maps that they previously lost against them.
Run it back.
Just run it back. Why not? The confidence. No, but I mean, if you already feel like you have a disadvantage anyway, you might as well just play to your own strength rather than trying to, you know, like gameplay it and somehow play 5D Jess or like however many Ds you can put into Jess. I think. I don't think that was a bad move, but no big surprise. TSM, they were the favorite to win this. Let's run it back. It was a quick match. Let's still, however, look at some of the highlights here. Quite frankly, there were some cool moments on both sides. And whose pulse bump here will forever live rent-free.
That was the best play of the game. Yeah, that was one of the sickest pulse bombs I've seen in a long time, actually.
This is going to live rent-free in my head for many seasons to come.
I mean, the problem though was for ASU, we're like looking for these like little individual moments where people pop off. I mean, it's like a crazy play. But from TSM, it's like no one can do one individual super carry because everyone is contributing kills. There aren't aren't 5 players for you to 1v5 because somebody else on your team has already got a kill. And I mean, that's what happens when you see these teams where there's just a huge mismatch in strength. TSM, drastically stronger team. What we saw in this match was, it was a beatdown, it was a drubbing, frankly, not super competitive. And I mean, there were a couple moments where ASU had some strat where they looked well prepared and they executed it well, but there were just as many moments where their plays completely fell flat and TSM just read them like a book. So TSM, clearly a team that really should be the one in the main event here.
They did their best, like, honestly. On Shambali Monastery, like, their defense was really good. That close hold, honestly, it was really, really impressive. I didn't expect them to be able to even hold it for that long, and then in the end, they're getting a little bit unlucky. But, yeah, it is what it is. I do think it was... We probably all expected the rematch to go the way it was. It was a yeah.
Losing is learning, so
losing is learning, and I hope
well, they didn't learn because they already lost to this team playing the same maps, and then they did it again.
They need to learn more. There's always more learning.
But they lost more, so now they can learn more. That's how I see it. The Rhino getting themselves the player of the match honors here with some fantastic tank play.
Yeah, Rhino looked great on the Winston, especially. I think, I mean, the ball was nice to come out, and he showed a lot of flexibility. Ram, Malga, ball all look comfortable, but I think the Winston is where kind of the true test of competition in tanks is how they maneuver on the Winston. It's such a non-linear character. You know, there's so many options about how to play, but constantly I feel Rhino's getting the better of the trades, seeing these windows to connect deep to the back line and finding the individual primal juggles. I mean, more often than not, when Rhino's in the backline, he was just fine in the cleanups. Even this primal, which I thought was getting shut down, I thought it was like, oh, he's done, and maybe he overextended this. He finishes the brig with the last punch after the primal ends, and then manages to escape with his life. And I mean, that's the difference that was felt throughout this series, I think.
Yeah.